On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks are down 1, 2, 3 centers. They have one left. What do they do? What do the Mavericks do at the center spot? We'll talk about that and more big questions about the Dallas Mavericks on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
We have Kyrie.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't even help
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everydayer, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Subscribe to our free Locked On Mavs newsletter, your one stop for the best news and analysis on the Dallas Mavericks and the NBA straight to your inbox every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. We know the two teams, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5 and you get $200 in bonus bets. Download the app, head to FanDuel.com to get started. And joining me, as always, my co-host, media member, the question croissant, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
I have a question for you right off the bat. A multiple choice question. Which subject would you like to talk about today? A, Brian Schottenheimer. Two. B, the Chiefs three-peat.
Not as much.
C, the Mavericks injuries. D, the U.S. government.
Besides the last one, we do cover all those on Locked On. Between Locked On Cowboys, Locked On Chiefs and Eagles, and Locked On Mavs here. And we are Locked On Mavs, so we'll talk about the Mavs injuries, and we'll talk about a bunch of big questions around the Mavericks right now. We'll ask questions about Klay Thompson and his touches and how the Mavericks are using him right now, because he's not really getting a lot of touches right now. And I'm not really sure what they do until Luka comes back with him. We'll also talk about the Mavs made a signing today. We'll talk about that and what the Mavericks do.
Kylor.
So, yeah, let's start here. The Dallas Mavericks are down another center. Maxi Kleber has a fracture in his foot, and Lively had a fracture in his ankle, is what it came out. And so I don't know if the timeline for Maxi is longer. I'm gonna assume Maxi's done for the season, to be honest. Like just the way his injuries have gone, and a fracture like that is a big one, especially for a foot injury. And just the way that the Mavs luck has gone, honestly, like I'm putting luck into this too, that I'm just assuming that maybe he ramps up for the end of the season or something like that. But now the Mavericks have a bigger question. Dwight Powell's been out for a while. Lively's obviously still out long-term. Maxi is now out. It's just Gafford versus the world, or playing small ball with Kessler Edwards as the 5, which is what they did against the Celtics the other day. Oh, man. And so what's the big question about the centers right now?
Well, at this point, we're just going down the ankle, right? Or going down the foot. Like Lively had the ankle, Maxi had a foot. Somebody's going to fracture Gafford's going to fracture his toe.
Don't say that. No, we're knocking on all the wood that there is.
And then we're just, rolling out Brandon Williams as a starting center. The Maxi injury is just, massive. Obviously, the Lively injury is just absolutely brutal for this team. But the Maxi injury on so many different fronts is just huge for this team. And so, yeah, now it's like, all right, with the wideout 2, before they made the signing here, I was like, do they go out and do they bring, shout out to the person who has been in our comments, feels like for like months, it feels like about Sharp, bringing Sharp up from the G League.
Sharp, yeah.
And I was like, all right, do they bring Sharp up from the G League? Do they try to make a small?
Can we talk about Sharp for a second? Are you get into it, or are we
about Sharp?
Yeah.
No, I got some stuff on the new guy, on Kelley, but
I just don't think Jamarian Sharp is very good. The times that we've seen him in the NBA, I don't think that he's been that great. I haven't heard a lot of things from him in the G League, but a lot of people have been asking for. I wanted to get the 7'5" guy. He just didn't show me a ton when he was with the Mavericks. So.
Super lanky. You're gonna hear the similar stuff like shooting, shot blocker, rim roller. But yeah, he's just. I think he's a little bit too skinny for that. But yeah, for the Mavericks, of like, what do they do next? I was like, man, do they go out and they try to trade? Do they make a tiny trade to try to get like a backup 5? I've been kind of all in on trying to get Duop Reith in Portland. But what the Mavericks do for their positions, they kind of like define what the position is, like without a player. Like, hey, at this position at the 5 spot, we have to have a rim roller, a protect the rim guy, shot blocker, maybe a rebounder there, but like that's the type of 5 that we're going to roll with all the time. Dereck Lively, Daniel Gafford. You can go back through the past few. I mean, Dwight Powell, like he's a great rim runner. They don't kind of venture outside of this. Is kind of like my Dinwiddie thing of like they've been trying to put Dinwiddie into the Luka role at times, and it's like Dinwiddie's not Luka, but they've like defined each of these roles and then they put players into the roles, and it's like this is so. Yes, before they signed Kylor Kelley, I was like, all right, they're going to have to go get somebody, and it's going to be a rim roller, it's going to be a shot blocker, because this is the defined spot for them, at the 5 spot, and that's what they went and did. They brought a guy up out of the G League to do exactly that.
Yeah, and so now they bring in, I want to call him Kylor. It's spelled with an O-R at the end.
Star Wars?
Kylor. That's what it sounds like. Kylor Ren Kelley. Actually, I'm going to call him that.
Kind of the
Ren Kelley.
Kind of the opposite of Kyler Murray. He's 27. I mean, just a little bit about, I don't think Kylor Kelley is going to stick around for the whole season or, log playoff minutes or anything like that. But he's 27, 7 foot, blocks a ton of shots. He became the all-time shot block leader at Oregon State in their like program history, and only played 2 years there. So yeah, he's a rim roller, plays above the rim. He just fits that definition. He played for the South Bay Lakers in the G League. So obviously, I mean, this is what they have scouts for. They've been scouting guys like him for a while now, and they decided to pull the trigger on Kylor Kelley and said, hey, this is the defined spot we have at center. You like your play is that definition. So we're going to try to give you a spot.
You said he's not going to log playoff minutes or anything. I think he's going to log NBA minutes though.
Well, I don't think they make the move if they don't think if they're not going to at least try him out. So yeah. I don't think he's I don't think he's stepping in logging, 25 minutes a night. I think Dwight's probably going to play over him when Dwight can play. But I think they're at least going to like try him out. I mean, why make the move if you're not going to try him out? And I'm a big Gortman fan, so I was kind of like sad that they let Gortman go.
Yeah, so the Mavs released JC and Gortman, and they bring in Kylor Kelley. If they're just going to try him out and they're just going to do that, I kind of would be okay with trying Sharp again and bringing him back. Maybe there's something they're seeing in the G League, but he's blocking three shots a game in the G League, and Kylor Kelley's was blocking 1.5. He blocked 3 a game last year for the Maine Red Claws in 22 minutes. In 22 minutes in the G League, he was blocking 3 shots a game. Like that's a pretty good rate, right? That's a pretty good block rate. Yeah. But yeah, he's gonna come in and he's gonna do the thing. I think Tim McMahon had a report from a scout that said he's perfect for the Maverick system. He runs the floor, he rim runs, and he blocks shots. Like that's what the Mavericks need. It's exactly what the Mavs need at that spot. But this is like a Band-Aid solution to what the Mavericks have right now, because I think that they're eventually they're hoping Lively comes back for this season. I don't know about Maxey, and it sounds like Dwight will be back for this season too, hopefully. But yeah, because then things start getting a little bit better. But right now it's bad. Like the Celtics game, I think I said this on the bottom slightly, is that like Maxey goes to the locker room, looks really frustrated, and all of a sudden Markieff Morris goes to the bike and starts warming up, and you go, that can't be the answer. Like that can't be the solution there.
I'm like, is Salah there? Like, is Salah still in? Is he still? Yeah.
He actually. Do I have the? I don't know if I have the drop anymore. Do I have?
I will say Kelly's going to wear number 50.
Breaking news. My barber cut Salah Measure's hair the other day.
Oh my God.
He's still in Dallas.
Yeah, Salah. Yeah,
Can we bring him in?
He's definitely in Dallas. We should have him on the pod sometime. Get some good stories.
So he can yell at you again.
Yeah, just mid-season. Hey, do you remember that time you cussed me on the locker room because I tweeted something in the middle of the game? But he is going. Kylor Kelley.
Kylor Ren Kelley.
He's going to wear number 50, which is Salah's number.
Oh,
You better play like Salah if you're gonna come don that number.
If Jason Kidd doesn't yell, you scored 2 effing points at him at a certain point.
Listen,
that was a Salah Mejri famous. If you haven't seen that video on YouTube, look up Salah Mejri Mavericks. And Salah's yelling at Rick Carlisle for something on the sidelines, and Rick Carlisle looks back at him and yells, "You have 2 effing points right now."
Listen, I'm not expecting a ton from Kelley. It's Gafford's show for the foreseeable future. They just need bodies back there. They're gonna go small at times and throw, yes, and throw Kessler out there. They're gonna throw, they're gonna throw Omax out there at times. They might run PJ at the 5 at times, depending on the matchup. They're going to do that at times. And then I do expect Kelley to get some minutes here and there. And that's just what they're going to try to piece this thing together until, Dwight comes back at some point. He'll get backup minutes and just kind of try to, I don't want to run into one of my questions later on, but this is kind of where they're at. They're going to piece it together.
You could tease it like a real pro.
You want me to tease it? I do want to ask you a question. What
you do?
What is the biggest storyline for the Mavericks this season?
Talk about that and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Like a pro right there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game. Oh, you ready for this read, FanDuel?
Oh.
Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel. Check out what they have for the NFL. There's all kinds of great stuff, the props and all that. Have you seen the line yet?
No, I haven't. You want to take a shot?
Go for it.
Chiefs -2.
Chiefs 1.5. They've been doing the halves. It's all halves. That's what they've been doing.
A half off
on FanDuel. So yeah, Chiefs -1.5. So if you think that the Eagles are gonna win the game outright, you go ahead and put some money down on them right now. And if you put down $5 and you win, you get $200 in bonus bets. That's money you can use all of the different ways on FanDuel. So download the app, head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5. And if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL, official sportsbook of Super Bowl 59.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, what we call our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. Daily Dallas Mavericks show. We are on YouTube, all the podcast platforms. We're also on KFAA every day at 4:30 or a pregame. So shout out to you if you're watching this before Mavericks pregame. We appreciate you for watching the show. Check the QR code and the links in the description for different ways to follow the show, to do more, to get more involved. Because just because the Mavericks are hurt, we're not playing hurt over here. We're running full speed with Locked On Mavs. All right, Isaac. What's the big storyline for the Mavericks?
Well, I'm out of order now because we're supposed to talk about.
You do the one you teased.
Okay. Is the storyline from the season just simply the injuries? The Mavericks are 4-11 over the last 15 games. We know the Luka injury. We know the Lively injury. Kyrie's missed some games here and there. And the list, you can go down the list of players that have missed some time. Is that just the story of the Mavericks this season? Is it okay just to say, man, it's just one of those seasons, man? Like, this is purely the injury-riddled season for the Mavs.
I think that's where we are. Because I think if you look at, because the question you're asking is, what's the narrative of this season for the Mavericks? And you can go player by player, and we have on this show and gone through each of them and said, all right, what's the narrative of this player? What's Kyrie being asked to do? What's Luka's whole thing missing, season awards for the first time in his career, all that kind of stuff. But for the season itself, it's a lost season. And it's a lost season with an excuse, not a lost season like 2 years ago where the Mavs missed the whole postseason and all of a sudden we're calling for heads everywhere and people getting moved and all of a sudden trades are happening and the roster completely changes and big changes are made and all that. But yeah, I think it's just injuries, lost season, because you start looking what the Mavericks have played 46 games so far. Here are the games played for the Mavericks. You ready? They played 46 games. Kyrie 36, Luka 22, PJ 39, Klay 39. Dinwiddie, 44. That makes a lot of people happy. Najee, 34. He's still out with the illness for the Wizards game.
Get this guy some Dayquil.
Lively, 32. Grimes, 43. Gafford, 44. Maxey, 34. Like, you just go down the line. Everybody's missed 10 to 15, 20 games.
Yeah, and I say that because I think some people could get upset with it and like, well, you can't just like write off everything. Because is it like injuries plus do you have some like sweeping new opinion about Jason Kidd or about how Nico constructed the roster? If you wanted more out of this roster when Luka has been out and stuff. And I'm just in that camp of the injury thing. I think it is. I'm not. We were talking before this and just watching games right now. It's a tough watch at times because, it's fun. It's exciting to see these guys fight hard. It's something fun seeing guys like Omax and these guys, get some minutes, but it's also like, it's hard to like fun, like have some like firm opinions on things, on lineups, on combinations, on how some guys are playing off each other, playing with each other, because so many pieces are different right now. And this plays into my next question about Klay. Has Klay's stretch of games post Luka being out surprised you any?
No, because one of the things that I texted you today where you're like, all right, let's do a couple of different topics today. I saw this thread on Reddit. It was a great one. And it said in his last 2 games, Klay played a total of 56 minutes and got 38 total touches. My man's not even getting that touch a minute on the floor right now. 21 touches in about 30 minutes played versus the Hornets, 17 touches in the 26 minutes he played against the Celtics. In comparison, Kessler Edwards, who played 12 minutes, had 14 touches on the ball. Like, and that's steals, that's rebounds. It's like literally anytime you touch the ball, it's not just passes to you. And so I think that I wouldn't be surprised because was the one thing the whole time is that he's tied to Luka. His minutes were completely tied to Luka. So for the Mavericks to have not run much Klay without Luka for the whole beginning part of the season, then all of a sudden Luka is not an option anymore. It's not surprising to me the Mavs don't know how to use Klay outside of having Luka, which if we want to do some kind of take from the season, you could do a negative one and say Kidd's offensive system has been exposed because of this season. All of a sudden you lose your offensive engine and then the whole thing falls apart, which I think Kidd would look at it and say, yeah, of course, you lose an MVP player and
he's never seen anything like it.
I agree with him though. I haven't seen anything like it either. But you lose your MVP and all of a sudden your offense completely falls apart. You don't know how to use guys. And I just think that I don't think that's good enough as a head coach in the NBA. But you could do a lot of positives that you could take, PJ's growth and the roster makeup and the depth and all that kind of stuff. There's positives you could take in a narrative too. But if you're going to, I think the offense has been kind of exposed because of this Klay thing. Like they can't use Klay apparently without Luka.
Yeah, well, I mean, anytime you build a system around a guy and Luka and you lose the guy.
Can I stop you right there? Hey, people hate when I interrupt you. I'm going to do it right now.
I mean, I don't care.
When you say build a system, do you think they really build a system around Luka, or do you think it's just Luka is the system? Jason Kidd has literally said that before.
Well, I mean, I think both can be true, right? Like a player can be so good that he is the system that you build around that system. Like, and you see that with a guy like it was the smart thing to do for Houston to do with James Harden. It is like you find these guys, too often that these generational talents, I don't have to say and describe Luka's game, but for Klay, I don't have any like big change of opinion either, because the same thing of what you said of like, they brought Klay in to play off Luka and they paid Klay to play off Luka in this type of role.
Yes.
Klay isn't like, we all know this. Once again, it goes back to the expectations. If you were expecting Klay to play like $30 or $40 million Klay, like he was pre-injuries, and to where you could run this offense through him, or be like, oh, Luka's out, now we have Golden State pre-injury Klay and Kyrie. It's not how this works. They pay him $15 million a year to spot up and hit these spot up jump shots off of Luka Doncic. That's what they brought him in for. So I'm not sitting there. Yes, there's been some up and down stuff. I think they got to figure out ways to get Klay touches, not just Klay, but they got to figure out ways to generate threes. That was one of the biggest things with Boston. They're really, really good at defense. So it's really hard to generate threes against a team like that plays such good perimeter defense. But still, that's the thing. They couldn't even generate 3-pointers. So it's not even as much as like Klay can't get touches. You got to have a system and have players out there that can. I mean, Luka's the best at it in the world, of like him and Jokic, of like just generating open shots for your teammates. but you got to have some players out there. You can't just be Kyrie that is like, you're banking on Kyrie Irving to say, break a guy, like down and get to the paint and then find a guy that's open on the perimeter. Like you got to have more guys like that can do that. And they're really struggling with finding that type of guy right now. So I don't have any big negative thing about Klay. We got to wait until the rest of the pieces are. That's what Klay was brought in to fit next to Luka.
Yeah, my negative thing about Klay is it's exposed the offensive system that we can say has been built, or that is at least the roster has been structured around playing off of Luka and Kyrie. And they have a system. They run plays. They do stuff like that. I'm obviously being hyperbolic about that. They do. They love running. But Klay Thompson, to your point, $15.8 million this year. You know who's making the same amount of money as him?
I mean, Gafford's right around him.
But Tim Hardaway's making $16 million this year. I mean,
yeah,
right. You're not asking him to do more. Kevin Huerter making 16.8. Rui Hachimura 17. Grayson Allen 15.6. Max Strus 15 million. They're all kind of the same guy in that range, and so it makes sense for him to be in this range. But some teams know how to use that player, and right now the Mavericks aren't using Klay Thompson. I think that is something that has been shown. Just look at the touches. They just can't figure out how to even get him the ball sometimes.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's hard to you sign a guy that you want to put on the perimeter, hit open jump shots, or have him coming off screens, and you can hit him coming off screens and stuff. Well, if you don't have the players that can get him the ball, then he's past the point of running the offense through Klay type of player. He is, hey, you got to set up the system to create the opportunities for Klay so he can play off these guys. And right now they're just struggling to do that, to generate the touches for him to get the open shots. That's just what he was brought in to do.
The Mavs system is nowhere near the Warriors, but the Warriors still could find ways to get him shots. They don't have Curry is not Luka, where he just drives, kicks, and creates open shots for a bunch of guys.
They have a more free flowing offense too. So
right, but that's the system, and that's what they've made it to be, and they were able to figure out how to get him shots. And yeah, I think it's interesting. The whole Klay thing has been interesting the last couple of games, especially without Luka. Coming up, let's get into some trade deadline plans for the Mavericks. Do these injuries change everything for the Dallas Mavericks? I kind of think it does. We'll talk about that more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here. Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Isaac. We're asking some big questions about the Dallas Mavericks. We've talked about Kylor Kelley, the Mavericks' new signing on a two-way spot. We've talked about the Mavs, what they do at center. We've talked about what's the narrative for the Mavericks season. We talked about Klay Thompson and the Mavericks offense right now. Where are we going for trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, I think my second to last question for you is, do the Mavs make a trade in the next 10 days? I mean, it's crazy, but the trade deadline's next Thursday, guys. Next Thursday.
February 6th, 2 p.m. Central. We'll be right here.
Do I have it on my work calendar? Deadline day? Did I move some meetings around? Yes, I did.
Yeah, heck yeah, you did.
Because you gotta have some time to follow trade deadline day. You got to see what Shams is going to talk about with the Lakers. So
you have your ESPN app notifications turned on now? You saw they've been doing that? I turned mine on. They're always after the Twitter ones. I think it's really funny.
The Shams AD stuff was just wild to me, by the way. Of just
the whole interview and everything.
Cool, you sat down and talked to him. There's so many people who talk to players all the time in the media, but they rolled that sucker for 3 straight days of the interview and then the game the next day. And then it's him getting interviewed, Shams getting interviewed before talking about 80's impact. I'm like, did Clutch make this? What is going on?
Yes.
So anyway,
the answer is yes. You're asking the right questions.
Do the Mavs make a trade in the next 10 days? The Maxey injury was huge for the trade deadline, I think, for Dallas, because that's the contract you're looking to attach certain things to if you want to make a bigger type of deal. Now, I mean, unless someone's just saying, all right, we'll take the dead money of Maxey this year, but he still has, it's not like it's an expiring contract. So it's not the same type of thing. So now it's just all right, now you're going to dip into the, if Nico was going into the trade deadline saying, all right, we're going to use Maxey's contract and then a protected pick, or Maxey and Omax, or Maxey and another, Hardy. And we're going to go get a two-way wing or a backup center or whoever it is. Well, now the suitors for Maxey, I think, goes down. And now it's what are you left with? Unless you dip into some of the better players on the roster.
Yeah, I think now if Maxey is going to be like out for the rest of the season, which I don't know. I'm just again assuming because of luck for the Mavericks. It does limit your suitors to teams that don't care about the regular season. You're limited to Nets, Raptors, Hornets, Wizards, Spurs, Blazers, Pelicans, Jazz, and maybe not even the Spurs in that category, right? Like those are kind of your suitors for Maxey at this point, because LA Lakers is not coming after Maxey anymore. Orlando Magic or whoever, like, just name teams that are trying to win right now. You're not going to go trade for a player that makes not big money. I think people have talked about Maxey's contract as if he's making $25 million a year, at least if you look on Twitter or some of our comments on YouTube. But he is making 13, which is what percentage of the salary cap right now? 7.8%. No, he's making 11. Stop. He's making 7.8% of the salary cap. So it's not nothing, but it's not huge either. But it's something that a team would have to trade some money for. And so for a good team to give up something to get him, for him to not play this season, I think, like you said, limits the options the Mavericks have.
Yeah. So now, does it limit Dallas to just like a smaller deal? Like I was talking about Duop Reeves, but it's like they go get him, and it's like a Hardy for him. Like those are like smaller deals, or do they just stand pat and say, ride out we just got to get healthy, and that's what we'll hear for the rest of the season. We believe in ourselves that we can beat anybody when we're healthy. And you know what? They actually have a point for that. Like there's a case for that. Yeah. So even if you can't get mad if that's what you hear a ton for the rest of the season, because there's a lot of truth to that of they believe they can, and they've done that a lot.
Unless they get a huge, great deal that comes at them. I also don't think that they're going to trade a pick this year. They'll maybe at the draft, because they have this 2025 pick. They have their pick this year. And it's going to be a little better than we had thought that it was going to be, because these insane injuries the Mavericks have had. But I don't think they're going to trade a pick, and you save that for a bigger deal that pushes you forward even better. So like you said, I think it changes. These injuries have changed the Mavericks trade deadline, because I think Nico will be less aggressive. I think he will still make a deal. He always does. He's literally done it every single year. But I think
you definitely can't trade Gafford now.
100%. Yeah, he untradeable.
That's just how it changes so much. With the Lively injury, then the Maxey injury. If you were, if is truly dropping Gafford and stuff, that ain't happening.
Is Gafford like the fifth safest player on the roster? Like Luka, Kyrie, PJ, or Lively, PJ,
Omax, Gafford.
No, it's not Omax. Just kidding. Imagine if you were on a podcast and you just did a whole episode about Omax.
Last question I have for you. Who is deserving of some more minutes? I have three options. Hardy, okay, Edwards, or Omax.
Kessler Edwards started the other day. That was
he
surprising.
Had some moments. I'm not gonna lie.
That was surprising to me. He's had some moments. He's the guy that of those players has had the most experience. He was legitimately a starter for the Kings or the Nets, and which is not like.
I'm sure I can find some very intriguing starters right now across the league.
It doesn't give you a lot of hope. Yeah, he started 23 games for the Nets in 2022, which again does not give you a lot of confidence. But 23 games is not an insignificant amount of games that he played, and so I think I would go with Kessler Edwards. He showed me something in these couple of games. Omax has too, but Kessler a little more. Did you go with Omax?
I'm going with Omax, of course.
Okay.
No, I like a little stretch that we've gotten from Omax. He feels a little bit more confident with the ball. He's making decisions faster. Everything hinges so much for Omax on his shot, and he shot it well at Marquette. I think it can come around. He just needs consistency, and that it's so hard to find the consistency whenever you're on a team that's like a win now team, and you're like, all right, now I'm going to play because this guy's injured, and now I'm not going to play and for a long time and all this stuff. So he has a lot to improve on, but I've liked a lot of the things that I've seen recently.
Yeah.
Still thinking about that dunk on Jalen Williams. And Grimes' dunk?
I'm still thinking about Quentin Grimes' dunk. That one's still stuck in my head. So the NBA.com or the NBA app does like a dunk score where they just put together a bunch of different categories. It's literally the number one dunk score in the NBA this season.
That's awesome. That's a great stat.
You're not a fan of the dunk score.
I feel like we make up stats so much now.
What are you, Luka Doncic?
I feel like I'm just like, oh man, get off my line. I see so many acronyms for stats, and I'm like, all right, give me the equation for that.
PEMDAS.
And it's like 6 different things, and I'm like, DMing Andy Bailey. I'm like, hey, where did the crap did this come from? So
you just hate that B-ball indexes is named LeBron. You just hate that that's their advanced status.
That's pretty annoying. For as annoying all the injuries have been and frustrating the season has been, we've gotten a lot of fun dunks this season. So I just want to point that out there that we've at least have some fun moments, because it feels like we went through a the 40 days in the wilderness land of where no one could dunk outside of like one player for like 4 or 5 years. And it's like, dude, can we get, and we got Dennis and we're like,
yeah,
a Maverick can dunk again. And now it's like the Grimes dunk, Omax's dunk, Gafford throws him down, Lively throws him down. Last year we had the oop between Luka and Kyrie, and it's just
Kyrie dunked 6 times last year.
Yeah, and it's like we had Derrick Jones Jr. last year, and PJ throws it down. It's like now we get like some dunks here and there, and no one's healthy, but
Dinwiddie had a dunk.
Dinwiddie's dunk too.
That clutch dunk against the Thunder.
That was awesome. They're all getting hurt at the end of them, but they're at least fun in the moment. So,
are we coming away with this conclusion? Dunk less. Is that what we're coming up with?
I mean, John Morant's like, hey, I'm never dunking again. And then like the next day he's doing like double clutch between the legs twice, dunking it. And it's like, okay, dude.
Oh, man. There you go. Let us know in the comment section what you think the Mavs should do about the center spot at the trade deadline. Let us know in the comments on YouTube. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Check the QR code, the links in the description for different ways to follow the show. We're the Mavs Insiders. You can text us and get texts from us on all kinds of updates about the Mavs and all that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. We'll be back tomorrow with the Wizards post game. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.